Good evening. I'm really excited for this one. Last week, I made a community post saying the 3 most liked comments will be what I ramble on next. Let me know what you want me to talk about. So we did get quite a few topics and just random questions. So I'm already kind of altering the rules because I did say the top 3 I'll cover, but I'm actually going to be covering more than that. But I will cover the top 3 first, because that is the rules. However, basically as soon as the first few comments were flooding in, I realized how unfair this system is, where it really feels like Reddit, where it's just basically the first people to post are going to get the most upvotes, or the best chance of getting the most upvotes. So anyway, I'm really excited to talk. Now, I will say, however, I have not written any notes for this, or there's no script. It's really, and I haven't even actually read every single one of these topics, to be quite honest. But I do know what the top 3 are, but I'm just going to be doing this in a ramble style. So it's just going to be the thoughts off the top of my head right now. But I am very excited to get into it. So let's get into it. Oh, also, I wish that YouTube would actually do the top comments as the top comments instead of just being in a random order. So Aaron B3225, shout out for the most amount of likes, 40. He says, wouldn't mind hearing about your PvM journey. Know you copped GM, but what was that journey like? Did you notice any gatekeeping? Have to buy teammates for any favorite tasks? Which did you struggle with? Any funny, memorable experiences? So I really like this question. I don't really know if you want me to mainly focus on the CAs or actually my entire PvM experience. So I guess I'll just kind of start with how I even started enjoying PvM, or started getting that itch for it. So when I first made this Iron Man, I was not a PvMer by any stretch of the imagination. Literally, I was. I think my only experience with PvM before making this account was KBD. Literally. I mean, maybe if you count shamans. I had done a little bit of lizardman shamans. I don't even think I had done any barrows before. I really don't think I had done any barrows. I don't even think I knew how to do barrows. I also had never done DKs or KQ or any of these kind of higher level Slayer bosses ever before. So my knowledge was so minimal. But Iron Man, of course, as you guys know, forces you to get into these kinds of grinds because you have to get gear upgrades. So obviously I kind of made step-by-step progress through that, having to get my Dragon Warhammer, having to get Bandos, having to get these other things. But it really was a struggle. I never particularly enjoyed the PvM side of things, mainly because I didn't really know how to be efficient with it either. And not having great gear, really just being there and praying I get lucky so I can just pull something and flex it, on my Iron Man account. But what really changed everything was pulling my twisted bow at Chambers of Zarek at 20 KC. Yeah, I was in a trio in college, and I was in a Discord call with 2 of my friends, and it took so much for people to drag me to Chambers because I didn't want to learn it. I was like, this fucking grind is so just unbearably long. I'm not gonna it was literally the release of Chambers that actually kind of scared me of PvM in a sense. It was so intimidating, and the items were so grandiose and such long hour grinds, and the whole place seemed so extremely complicated. And I was like, no, I'm just gonna try to be a skiller, or just try to focus on the XP game, because I wasn't maxed at the time or anything. But I had some friends drag me over there, and I pulled a twisted bow, 20 KC. I actually remember the screenshot that I have of it, and it had Iron Aloha in the PMs talking with me and stuff. Whenever I think of Iron Aloha, just let me know down in the comments if you know who I'm talking about. That was one of the OG Iron Man streamers. But he, whenever I see his name now, I just think of that good time of pulling a TiVo now, which is kind of funny. But that really was the pinnacle moment where everything changed, because pulling a TiVo, and keep in mind, this was 20, let me think. This must have been 2018, because, yeah, 2018. So this was April of 2018. I pulled my TiVo, and then I got my Infernal Cape about a month and a half afterward, right before Theater of Blood release. So basically like I got my infernal cape, or sorry, I got my T-bow, and then I was immediately like, holy shit, like I could actually go get an infernal cape. And keep in mind, getting an infernal cape was just absolutely like unreal to me. On the release of Inferno, I literally made a vow in my mind that I would never even touch that place, because it just looked so incredibly difficult. Like it was stupid. Like the fact that Wooks, like it took Wooks a couple days to get his cape, like there was just no way I was going to even attempt it. But getting my Infernal Cape and seeing the few handfuls of Iron Men that had gotten their own Infernal Capes, I was like, you know what? The greatest flex in this game is currently is to have a fucking Infernal Cape and to slay with it, like do Slayer with it. That would be just absolutely unreal. So I put myself to the task. I went and grinded out a Ceridome and Godsword, and then went to the Inferno. It took me about 12 days to get it. I was in college at the time, and I just remember like doing one attempt, having to take like 2+ hours, dying, and then fucking like just sitting there in my sorrow and misery, just so defeated. But I kept going back day after day. I probably did around 20 attempts, I think it was, before I actually got my cape. It took me about 5 Zucks, and getting that cape gave me so much confidence and so much like love for so much more passion for the game after getting that, because I realized something clicked in my brain where I realized like this is literally just a video game. And sometimes I feel like players, including myself, like we kind of put this game on a pedestal where like things that are hard, we see them as like really, really hard, where really when you look at it, it's a point and click video game. And if you put a little bit of practice into something, you can get stuff done. So that was really like the turning point where I started really enjoying PvM. And so I just started kind of going off and just going to a bunch of different places. I learned Bandos flicking. That was like one of the first things I wanted to learn, because I realized if I could get an Infernal Cape, I can learn how to Bandos flick, like all those amazing streamers, all those like super talented PvMers. And that gave me more confidence to start soloing Chambers of Xeric, and then getting into Theater of Blood eventually, and then getting into, just everything else that was there to offer. And I really started actually focusing more on efficiency. I've never really been a like super hyper efficient player, but I do like optimizing setups and optimizing my PvM routes. I am still very particular about enjoying the PvM aspect. I don't want to make things so hyper efficient that it's not even fun anymore. I still want that fun aspect in it. But one of the things that is so fun about PvM is really optimizing how you do things. So, and then of course, just with so many hours, like thousands of hours of PvM, you start understanding the tick system and all these other things. So when CAs inevitably came out, I was really excited. However, for some reason, I kind of fell back into that same mindset where like, oh my God, like Grandmaster is going to be very difficult. Like part of me understood that Grandmaster was not going to be that hard because of the fact that I am in like that top tier echelon of just players in general. And I don't say that to flex. I just say that because I've put in like 19,000 fucking hours on an Iron Man with a really like crazy arsenal of gear and stuff that I've obtained. So like I knew when it was coming out that this wouldn't be impossible for me by any stretch, because obviously they're trying to cater it to like every player in a sense, like not every player, but they're trying to make it so it's achievable to at least a portion of the player base. So, but my first real intention was just to get the Elite Diary done from CAs. And then I very quickly, after getting Elite, I think I completed the Elite one in like less than a week. And then I immediately was like, fuck, I got to go for Grandmaster. Like I can't just sit around and just not go for it. Like it's just going to eat me alive. It's like the Infernal Cape. Not having the Infernal Cape made me just burn out of the game in a sense. Like I couldn't focus. I couldn't focus on anything else until I got it. So I went for the GM helmet, the Grandmaster, and I did every task by myself, of course with some team tasks such as like TOB. Well, obviously like TOB, you have to get teams, and I would go on my stream and ask for people that were actually good to carry me. The only thing that I really had carried for me in a sense, and of course, when you think about it, every single team task technically you're getting carried. Like there's no way like you're gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna fucking carry 4 noobs into this trying to get the CM time or whatever in the 5-man CM time. So no, I want competent players to just get me through this, so I'm not just sitting here for weeks upon weeks just suffering. So Lucid Dream actually came to me when he had like a service where he was charging people like 100 or 200 mil to get that 5-man and the normal chambers speed runs. So he came to me and said, hey, like we'll give you this for free if you just stream it, basically like for free advertising. I was like, fuck it, hell yeah. So we got that one and done, which is really nice. My only regret with CAs really, and this is actually one of my regrets, was earlier this year when I was probably in my most burnt state. I had an offer. Again, this was not me going out trying to buy any services, but I did get a little like offer from Saxer Pillar that was just like, hey, I could help carry you through these CAs that you have missing. And at that time, I think I had like 7 TOA tasks missing. And he offered for free just to fucking help carry me through these tasks. And he did the tasks literally for me as I sat outside. And I was in like literally my most burnt state. I hadn't gotten my Zuck helm back for several months. And that is actually one of my regrets, believe it or not. Because even though, yes, it is in the game and the way it's coded is you don't actually need to be participating in the actual task itself, the way the TOA tasks are coded, it still deep down didn't feel right for me to do that. And so a few of my tasks, I'm trying to think of the actual ones it was. I think it was like the Akka one. By the way, these tasks like I could have done. There wasn't anything particularly like super challenging about it. I just had to go do it. And yeah, I might have taken a few attempts, but the biggest thing, like my mindset at the time was I was so burnt. Like I just didn't even want to step into TOA because I just hated the place. Oh my God, like it made me sick. And I was just so burnt of that fucking raid. So that offer that randomly came out of nowhere to have a free task given to me, it just like I couldn't not take it. So I just fucking did it. And yeah, pretty much right after it was done, I kind of regretted it. And it was just one of those things where like from now on, I'm not going to go down that route of having people carry me in anything. It's a little bit different when it's team oriented. I think team oriented tasks in general require this is just quality of life at this point to get a good team. But when it's something where I can do it and there really is no sort of gatekeeping with how good your team is, I'm not gonna have people carry me from now on when we get more and more tasks. So yeah, definitely one of my regrets from PvM. But yeah, so I believe that answers all the questions. Let me see. Favorite tasks. I think favorite tasks were let me actually just take a brief look at the bosses real quick, because I want to say actually the Hunlith fights were some of my absolute favorites. I think part of it was just that RNG aspect and how it was very quick and fast paced. Like just going in, trying to get very, very good RNG, and then just kind of hoping for the best. I think that was really fun. And also learning how to do like the poking, so you can like change Hunlith into just 2 different styles back and forth. Or I guess 1 different style back and forth. And yeah, I would say that. Also, I liked the Jad tasks. I liked the 6 Jad tasks as well. This is one of the flexes that I have, is just that there are some things that I'm pretty good at naturally when it comes to this game. 6 Jads are definitely that thing where I have completed 2 6 Jads with 0 deaths. And yes, it's permanently solidified on the board. I'm basically Wooks now, but that 6 Jads was definitely a ton of fun as well. Any funny, memorable experiences? I'd say memorable was not, this is not a funny experience. The memorable, actually, there are some funny clips of me trying to go for my elite, like, Jad helmet initially. That was the fucking, like, DKs trying to, trying to get all 3 DKs killed in, like, 1 shot or whatever. Like, oh my God, like there was something so aggravating about that because I think I was wearing like a ring of recoil or something like that, and I killed all three of them at once, and this had taken me like 2 hours to finally fucking get set up because I kept getting RNG'd and I was gonna throw a chin at them, and finally, after like 2 hours, I finally get them all attacked in one tick, but my recoil went off because Rex hit me, and Rex actually died a tick earlier, and I was just sat there in disbelief on my stream, just freaking out that it didn't fucking like work. I was pissed. But memorable was definitely the Zuck fight where you couldn't drop below 50 HP. That was definitely the most memorable task because it was so aggravating. It feels so unnatural to have that as a restriction. So I just kept failing it over and over. Okay, what is the next thing we can cover? I think there was one with 20 likes. Let me look. Was there one with 20? There we go. A deep dive into mobile-friendly activities, skilling, pet hunting, PvM, etc. Shout out Daffy6970. I'll be honest. This kind of comment, I am not going to be the person to really be able to expand on this much. The only thing I've ever actually gotten on mobile that's significant was a giant mole pet, and I got that in like 5 kills when I was like laying in bed one night. I was like, fuck it, I'll just go on mobile. I'm never on RuneScape mobile, I'll be honest. I'm one of those neats that just like can be at a computer all day every day if I wanted to, so like being on mobile is just never. And the other thing is, when I am away from the computer, I really don't want to be playing RS. I want to just kind of like like breathe in actual life for a change. So I'm definitely not the person to ask, but I will say I think the best things with skilling are just like, or the best things with mobile are really just skilling, like bake standing, skilling, anything that you would absolutely dread doing on a computer. So like day alt mining, redwoods. When I was maxing, I actually went and I did a lot of redwoods when I went on my walks. And yeah, it's just one of those things where like I've never felt good playing on mobile. Let me know if you guys feel the same. Like there's just something like, I just get a headache. I think it's something as well about like, it gives me the same feeling of like playing in a car. Like, have you guys ever played on like a Game Boy in the car, like on a road trip or something, like some handheld portable gaming device? I get so fucking car sick. And doing anything else, like doing any activity in real life alongside RS Mobile gives me a headache. It's just like, no, I just want to log out. I can't do this. Now, if mobile were to not have a logout timer, or make it like 25 minutes, so like you could actually switch apps consistently and have things going in the background with RS Mobile instead of logging out every 60 seconds, I'd probably use it a lot more. I believe there is some way to like jailbreak your fucking iPhone, which I'm not willing to do. Absolutely not. Where you can actually have RS running in the background for all that time, but it's just, it gives me a headache. But yeah, if they were like change that, I'd probably use it a little bit more. Furry Wall, I believe, is actually the third most. So he asks, did we just experience the golden age of OSRS? Is it downhill from here? Nah. So this is like the fear mongering that I like to participate in occasionally, and all of us, I think, occasionally like to participate in the fear mongering of just OSRS. Like this game's all downhill. No, I really actually don't think that at all. I actually think the game's in a very, very healthy spot. Just this morning, Jagex came out with that quality of life post where they are looking to change a bunch of different things that are kind of seen as dead content. A lot of balancing changes with weapons, a lot of balancing changes with just old systems that we've dealt with, agility, thieving, run energy, like all that stuff. And that kind of talk, that kind of mindset in the community and in the team really, really makes me feel like this game's in good hands and has so much life left in it. So absolutely not do I think we experience that. Now, let me just kind of expand on this question, because you're asking the golden age of OSRS. Because for me, the golden age, there really hasn't ever been a particular golden age. I always kind of want to think back to like 2018. I think 2018, of course, I was already talking about that year earlier in here where I was talking about getting my T-bow and my Infernal Cape and just really progressing my account and my mindset toward the game. that really feels like a golden year to me. But honestly, the time I was absolutely the most addicted was 2017, where that's like the year I made this account, and just the absolute addiction of going through a grind for the first time on an Ironman is something so special. So it's hard to say, because I really do think that there are some experiences that can only be experienced once, and something like a first time run through of an Ironman is one of those experiences where, like, it's a golden age to me, but it's not like objectively a golden age for the game as a whole. I think I've been through my absolute most addicted states that I will ever have in this game. I think part of it is just age related, where I was so young, and it's just, my mindset wasn't what it is right now, on top of like not having as many not like I have many responsibilities, but like I really just put all my responsibilities in the back of my head and just fucking had a blast playing RuneScape, and just going through all like the early Ironman grinds, and then getting into the Slayer bosses for the very first time. I mean, like, I had never even done it on a main. Like, those really were the golden age years for me personally. But I actually think we have a very, very long life of this game for the future. Like, easily another 10, 15, 20 years, I would say. I always like get scared of just immediately saying 20 years, even though I actually believe that. But I almost feel like I need to say 10 just to not make it sound so incredibly like depressing, thinking of like us being 50. Like, it really is just like, when you say 20 years from now, it's like, holy shit, I'm going to be fucking old. I already am old, but like, I'm going to be so fucking old. But yeah, I can still see myself playing, to be honest. That's actually I'm just kind of I'm gonna go on some rambles here, but really, this game is so fucking special. The fact that I can legitimately see myself enjoying this video game in my 50s, like, I say 50s, I guess 20 years from now I'm only 48, but like 40s, 50s, I can legitimately see myself still playing this, still having a great time, and that's something that you do not see in any other game, really, like, ever. And I think the beauty, I have to say this, like, it's the fact that there's no such thing as microtransactions. There's no such thing as like breaking the game in a sense to get to a spot you want. Like, everything is the journey. It's like that Fairly Odd Parents meme where it's like they're going up the roller coaster, and it's like, when is the ride going to start? Like, this is the ride, just going up, like, the ride literally is the grind. And I just love that about this game. It's endless. You make your own goals. You can make those goals as long or as short as you want. And like, I'm one of those psychopaths that tends to take the longer goals. And it's just, I don't know. It's cool. It's cool knowing that this game really does have so much life left in it. And the fact that the community is like really together, and I don't know, there's just something beautiful about it. I'm just so happy to be a part of it. Okay. So there were a few, runner-ups, so I guess we'll cover like these two from Ivy Bridge Cannon 8964 and Michael Wagner 7869, 7069s. What do you think Jagex's Project Rebalance will entail? I think Fang Nerfs are all but confirmed, but what general direction do you think they'll go in? Maybe giving monsters more elemental resistances to make magic more interesting, and maybe nerfing Shadow a bit, or adding new weapon styles to give melee more niches. I wonder how they'll go about changing things without getting into an EOC type situation. So somebody made a pretty good comment on the previous ramble I made, where I'm just talking about the whole Project Rebalance of that. There is absolutely, like, this is not in comparison at all to the Evolution of Combat. I was not there for Evolution of Combat, but what they did was completely restructure how combat itself works. And that is not what they're doing here. What they're really focusing on, and they're very clear about it and trying to be as safe as possible with it, is just giving things use, like giving absolutely dead content some revival. And I think, even though there is something like very nostalgic about this game, the old school, just charm of just nonsense of like things that are absolutely useless that nobody would ever do, there still is something to be said about like things that did have the intention of having a use. Like that, like the intention of bringing out this thing was to have use, but it just doesn't have use. There's a difference. And so when it comes to, I'm just going to switch my spell book real quick to the like standard spell books, like the elemental spells. I've said this myself. I don't know if Jagex is really like focusing on this, or they will focus, but like having all strikes have the same base hit, like the same base max hit would just be incredible. And giving monsters elemental weaknesses would be incredible. So this isn't going to change like the meta per se. Maybe in some very, very early stages of the game where magic, like initially when you're fucking level 10 combat, if you have Fire Strike, you're a demon. I mean, you can hit 8s. That's insanity. But imagine if all the strike spells could hit 8 or whatever maybe they'd have to, rebalance it where you do get some early level upgrades that, like these tomes they're thinking of reworking, and there's probably going to be an earth tome and an air tome eventually, like more little things to upgrade your magic stuff. That's going to help with elemental spells, and who knows, maybe the strikes actually go based off of your magic level at this point. So they're going to do some rebalancing similar to a trident, where if you're level 70 magic, your trident just doesn't hit as large as when you're going to be level 99. Maybe they'll do the same thing with strike. So me saying give everything base 8 damage, but this is not saying this is what they need to do. I'm just giving an example of if all the strikes had use, where right now only Fire Strike really has use because it's just so much more fucking dominant. It's the same thing with all of these types of spells, surges as well. Now, of course, they don't get as extreme as you go up because I believe these only have like a variation of like 4 different max hits, but it's important for these spells to have use. And I think like really going in, giving a bunch of monsters just a weakness if they need it. A lot of them, I would assume, just don't even have weaknesses, but some that do, it would just be so cool to be a magician going around. I'm just thinking of being like a super early Iron Man with a fucking staff in your hand and going over and casting different types of elemental spells depending on what the monster actually is, and really getting a noticeable effect that's like, wow, I'm dominating this monster because I'm actually using its weakness. And that gets me really excited. The same thing with the ranged thing that they're talking about, where we have stab, slash, and crush. They're going to be coming out with heavy, standard, and light ranged attacks. That gets me so excited. It's a huge, huge project. Getting in there, balancing it correctly and everything. But one of the saddest parts of this game that we don't even recognize anymore because we're so used to it, and some people are fine with it, that's one thing, but I think objectively we can say like it's kind of a shame that there are so many ranged weapons and only a small handful of them, not even a handful sometimes, are the only weapons you'll ever use. Like a ZCB, a T-bow, and a blowpipe. Now, of course, you can go down the list of things. Like if you didn't have those weapons, you could obviously use the lower tiered ones. But one of the biggest shames is like you have this other class of weapon, like a ballista, that just literally will never get any use. I mean, even crossbows never get that much use unless you're using ruby bolts, which ruby bolts are just absolutely absurd and they have this crazy ass effect. But if it wasn't for rubies, there would be very little use for it to actually be efficient. And so I think offering these new styles are going to just bring out so much diversity into the game. And I do think it's important to not be overly complex or make this system overly convoluted where things just become like out of control. Like there's so much thought process into just going to a boss and killing it. But elemental weaknesses, if you're going to be using elemental spells, for example, or I believe as well, they're thinking of having like the shadow have its own, element that's part of the air, water, earth, and fire. I believe it's like earth is shadow or something like that. And like fire is like blood or something, whatever it was. I can't remember all the things, but it kind of lines up with the ancient elements as well. But it's just cool knowing that there will be some more diversity in the game, and especially when it comes to magic. Magic is one of the most pathetic styles that we have right now. If you pull a shadow, you will never use any other weapon. You just won't, because you're just trolling yourself basically. And that's kind of the shame where it comes to magic. You literally just use the best DPS output and that's it. The end of story. So yeah, I'm really excited. I think that really just gives me a lot of hope for the game. Is just this Project Rebalance, and this is not all that's being talked about either. Like in the next coming years as well, they're going to continue to look back in the game and find things that can be properly rebalanced and like maintained at a healthy level. So I'm just really excited for it all. What you think the impacts of the inevitable Fang Nerf will be and what it means for mid-game accounts that got used to doing certain content that was made possible with an unnerfed Fang? Well, all they've said so far is that the Fang just won't be able to use Slash. So, I mean, it'll be able to use Slash, which it just won't have the double roll. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that was the only thing that's actually getting nerfed from it. Right? Or are they going to make further nerfs? Maybe I'm just misspeaking or misremembering, but the Fang is incredibly good. It deserves to be good. I mean, the Fang really does deserve to be good. It does come from an end level raid. And I've said this in multiple casts and rambles is like the biggest problem that we've seen is that when you're coming out with supposedly what is supposed to be an end game, quote unquote, raid, like you have to make it difficult and you have to make it require end game gear to participate in. Like, what are we going to do with raids for? Are we just going to make it so every level combat 70, every single person can participate in it because it's going to bring more numbers into the game? Or are we going to focus on like coming out with a very challenging team-based piece of content that's going to shit out the best ever rewards? That's what we saw with TOA. We're trying to be inclusive as possible and have it accessible to every single person, but you're going to have a downside of it, which is the prices of these best in slot items are just going to be dirt cheap. So yeah, Fang, I mean, it still makes sense that it is really good. One of my concerns is like the Fang is so fun to use because it just hardly ever hits zeros and it never hits low numbers either. So what really sucks is like downgrading from that. So you're using a Fang everywhere and then all of a sudden you switch to a Mace or a Rapier or a Sail Door and you're just hitting a bunch of zeros and hitting a bunch of like 1s and 2s and 3s. It's just like, God damn it, like this just does not feel good. So I really do wonder if there's something that Jagex can do that will allow some sort of accuracy buff in the future, some sort of maybe even like a sort of offhand, like a different defender that doesn't actually have any stats to it, but gives like some sort of like 20% additional, accuracy roll or something like that to your weapon. So you just get less of those zeros. Obviously, that would be a huge DPS increase. I'm pulling numbers out of my ass right now, but like something where the feel of it the weapon starts feeling better because you're not hitting as many zeros. I think that really is what it comes down to. The Fang feels good to use, whereas other weapons just don't feel as good. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be that big of a change. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know. I don't think it deserves to be like that. I don't think people should be freaking out is what I'm trying to say. It's not that big of a deal. Why I have my drinks on the very edge of my desk. I just do it at this point because why the hell not? I get a lot of interaction from that. I bait you guys into commenting. I love it. Let's see. Ramble about what's next after leagues. Player drops. Does it come back to normal? Decrease? How do we keep the buzz from record-breaking players and roll with it now? I personally ran into 3 people that said this was their first time playing RS in general. So let me finish this. Okay. So I think leagues is just absolutely like such a positive addition to the game, just because it allows so many players that just don't have the time for RS to really just dive in and enjoy it briefly. And to be fair, I'm actually very proud of the team to not make drastic changes to the main game because of what people enjoy on leagues. I think they've maintained like a really good kind of standard for like, okay, we're not going to just break the main game just because people like what leagues has to offer. For example, stackable clues. I would have assumed at this point we would have stackable clues in the main game just because of how popular they are in leagues, but they haven't. And I'm really like proud of the team to like hold their ground and realize like the main game should remain pure and should remain a very, very much a grind. I know people say like, they just want to have fun. They just want to play the game. They just want to do all this. But like, there's something very special about RuneScape, and there's something that gets people hooked and gets people to stay for years and years, and that is literally the grind. People love the grind, whether we believe it or not. Like, that's why we're playing. We love having to like chase after these stupidly long goals and get that dopamine when you finally achieve things. It's just, so don't change that. And when it comes to, clue scrolls in particular, which I'll touch on, it's like, I'm okay making changes to clue scrolls in the future. I would hate to see the quote unquote distraction and diversion of clue scrolls be removed just simply because people would have, more fun grinding, 500 stacked clues in their bank. Like, it's really hard because it's the same thing with like, oh, I would have more fun if we could just sit at the altar with the noted essence and just fucking stack it up. It's like, but there's more to it than just more fun. We got to have that nice balance, and we got to have like sort of like, don't devalue things that people have achieved in the past and other things like that. Like, there actually is an argument for that, believe it or not. I know there are like a subset of players that think like the devaluation argument absolutely holds no like ground at all, but yes, it does. Like, the reason we play this game is to fucking flex on people. Like, believe it or not, there's tons of people that play this game just to flex. If this game was not a massively multiplayer online game, and it was purely just single player that you're playing in your own fucking basement, nobody would go for 200 mils. Nobody would go for, I mean, some people would, I guess, but like very, very few. Nobody would do these just stupid goals if they couldn't share it with the community and just really like get involved and, be able to flex their achievements. So, I will say, though, just on the topic of clues, I'm actually like fully down for not stackable clues, but being able to hold more than one clue of a tier. So I'm actually okay with that. And I think I've thought about it enough. I'd still love to have more discussion on it just to see what potential downsides would be. But one of the things I'm thinking of is like, well, one of the problems with how clues currently work is like, if you're doing team-based content and you get an elite, you either have to just hold on to the elite and not have any more chances of it, or like pause your team and just get them all pissed off because you want to go do your clue scroll real quick. Like, that's one of the concerns. One of them is also like just doing Slayer. You get a clue scroll and you're like, oh my God, like I have to go D-gear. Like, what if I could just stay and finish the last 20 on my task and potentially still have another chance of a clue scroll? It's like the idea of just finishing up what you were already planning on doing, but not having an indefinite, just endless supply of these clue scrolls that just continually stack in your bank. And then, one of these years you dust off the clue scroll collection and go run a bajillion clue scrolls all at once. So it's not even a distraction and diversion. The implementation I would want to see would still count it as a distraction and diversion because the clues that you pick up do not stack. So if I'm going to go do a clue scroll, yeah, I could go and get 4 clues at a time, but now I have 4 actual clues, physical clues that are not stacking that are now in my inventory that I'm going to go solve. And this actually offers more of a diverse like system in going about your clue hunting in a sense. Like, doing 4 clues, there would actually be a little bit of like efficiency tips where you could like, if, for example, you're grinding out like, I don't know, 4 elites and you get like a DK's ladder one here, you'd probably almost want to not do that one just in case one of the other ones also has like the DK ladder. So you're trying to solve 4 at a time. Now there's like a natural cap as well. So there's no way somebody's going to be doing fucking 16 elites all at once because your inventory wouldn't even like barely allow it. But I mean, you still could, but there would be these natural limits. So one of the concerns with stackable clues where they actually stack is like, you would go to ham members, for example, on an Iron Man, go stack up like, 100 fucking easies. But in this system, you could go and thieve ham members, get about, I don't know, 5 or 6 easies, and then get your little setup and go solve 6 easies at a time. And so you're like looking at each different clue scroll, seeing how to mark your journey a little bit more efficiently. And I actually think that offers more fun in a sense to hunting and solving these clue scrolls, is like being able to do multiple at once. I actually think that could be pretty fun. So I've always had fun doing a hard and an elite at once. That has actually been very engaging for me when I get that, like at Sarachnis or not jellies, but like I think Scotizo. I'll occasionally get a hard and an elite, and I'll solve it at one time. Those are really fun to do. So that is something I would like to see. Again, I'm okay with how the system is currently, but I think if we wanted to go down a route where clue scrolls aren't so meticulous and so like strict on like not being able to hold anymore, I think the route of just being able to hold more would be the way to go about it. So let's see. I want to know what your plans are for 2024. You're going to start collection logging, complete wilderness, 2K raid capes, etc. So I actually have already completed the wilderness. I was actually the first ever Iron Man to complete the wilderness. That was before the wilderness changes were made, where they came out with Void Waker and everything else. But I've actually since completed the wilderness again. So yeah, I do have everything. The only thing that I don't actually like have in my log are the revenants, and that's because I fully completed revenants. I had fully green logged this a month before collection log came out, so I do eventually have to do this. But I do have the upgrades to these 3 weapons. Have a bunch of avarices. I've gotten all of these. But yeah, I do have green log. Where's Vedion? Green log. I actually have 2 of each of these pets now as well, which is pretty crazy. Green log. Where is Callisto? And green log. So yeah, kind of balling. But let's see, what was the other one? Collection logging in general. So I am 1170. By the way, I guess I'll just share this briefly. I have all 4 vestiges now. I'm missing 1 axe piece, which is Leviathans, but let me just show you real quick. I got the vestige literally earlier today. I did spoon this pet as well, but the only axe piece I'm missing is this one. And then Whisperer, of course, I have these 2, and Vardorvis. I have the axe piece and the vestige as well, but I have no Virtus, which is so strange. And I also only have 7 ingots, which is also very strange, especially for 50 Awakener's orbs and only having 7 ingots. So yeah, I still need to get 5 more ingots for my rings, technically, to have you fully finished them. But I'm actually kind of like low-key scared I'm not going to have any Virtus by the time this grind is done. So I'm just trying to finish up Leviathan here. That's what I was grinding earlier before I started this ramble. So yeah, but collection logging actually kind of has been on the table. I do kind of want to start pushing collection logs a little bit because I am missing like so many big things. Like I know Castle Wars does take about 100 hours, I believe it takes, but it's so AFK and it's something I could just do on the side. And it's 39 slots. I mean, that's insane. And then I have trouble brewing. That's 29 more slots, you know? Like, I mean, though, if I could just finish those 2 alone, that would literally shove me up like, what, 67 or something? Like 68? Yeah, like 68 or something, like slots. That's insane. And at that point, I'd actually be a little bit more motivated to start going for like ranks in a sense. Although I've never been like super into the ranking of collection log because just a lot of this, just I have no interest in doing. It's so fucking boring. But like, it's still something I could do. I don't think I get quite as much dopamine currently getting collection logs as, you know, a lot of the loggers do. But I think there will be a time, potentially next year, potentially in another year after, where I really will like just buckle down and start getting a bunch of these collection logs done. So okay. Oh, the 2K raids capes. I am going to just hold off on those basically for as long as possible because the more time passes, the more gear upgrades we get and the more easier these raids become. I mean, look at the Chambers of Zarek changes that were already made. I mean, challenge modes have now become a lot more like enjoyable and like balanced in a sense. So imagine having grinded all those 2,000 of them before those changes were made. It's like the longer you wait, the better you are off, kind of. Michael Grossman asks, what's a passion you have outside of gaming, fitness, and content creation? Would you ever go back to school? What would you do if the podcast never worked out? So I do. Yeah. The thing is, I'm not really a gamer. I'm actually just a scaper. I think that's like a distinction that I think some of you can understand. There's probably a lot of you in here that only play RuneScape like me. I did have a passion of chess a couple of years back. I really got into chess. I never got like super good, but I definitely drastically improved from what I was. And I've always enjoyed watching the occasional like Naroditsky stream on Twitch and just watching like grandmasters play. I just find it very fascinating, and it's just cool because it's like watching like the equivalent of RuneScape is like watching two master PKers go head to head, but there's no RNG element to it. It's literally just pure skill, which is just fucking awesome watching. So, fitness, I've definitely gotten into just like over the past couple of years. That is actually a huge passion of mine. Just keeping it's not even like bodybuilding in general. By the way, I do have to say, this is just kind of a slight tangent on that fitness topic, but like, about a year and a half ago, I wasn't really like lifting or anything. Even about like 14 months ago, I wasn't really lifting. To be fair, I haven't been to a gym in like 6 or 7 years. I do a lot of calisthenics at home, but one of the main focuses of my initial fitness journey was just losing body fat. Like I just wanted to not be as chubby, and so I went on a lot of walks and just ate healthier, ate a little bit less. But some of the comments in the YouTube comments were people like, hey, you should just try getting into lifting and try getting into like strength training and stuff. And believe it or not, those little comments here and there actually like kind of pushed me into doing that. I've put on quite a bit of muscle over the past year, especially by just simple push-ups, squats, pull-ups, and just other like curls and stuff like that just at home. And it's made a remarkable difference in my physique. And I gotta say, like little things like that, like I know it's one of those things where like you don't ever want to be pushy or seen as like, I don't know, trying to get somebody to do something, especially like in an anonymous online environment where you're like, hey, you should do this, or, you know. But I will admit, like some of those comments really kind of got to me eventually. And I realized like I really could be doing a lot more just daily, like these strength activities, like just doing, 50 or 100 push-ups in a day. Like it's not much, but over the long term, it really does make a huge difference. So thank you to all those commenters that, really were looking out for my best interests and just, saying little things like that eventually stack up and make me actually do something about it. So I've really enjoyed the changes in my body that have come over the past like year or so. Content creation, yeah. So anything else, I've actually considered going back to school, believe it or not, but it's one of those things where like, I really, really want to find that passion. And for example, like I'm really into music, and that was actually the reason I went to school in the first place. I changed my major like right off the bat, basically because I realized like the school I went to had no like actual like music production sort of career path or anything. But like creating music is something that I do have a deep passion for. It's just something that's so time consuming, and you need so much passion for it and so much motivation to like, really learn a program and really learn music theory and learn all these things that are very like essential to creating music. So I think in the future, like when I get more financially stable, I definitely will. One of the other passions that I've been having slightly is cooking. I've really enjoyed like learning recipes and cooking and stuff. And I was even thinking like, what would be like a cool, like if I did go back to school, a really cool major would be like food science or even like culinary kind of stuff. Just really learning how to create amazing dishes and stuff. Like I think that would actually be, because I'm a foodie. Like I fucking love food. I think about food a lot. I don't think about it as much as I used to. I think I have a lot more like healthy relationship with food at this point, but it's still one of those things where like, fuck, like a good meal is like the most exciting part of my day sometimes. So, what would you do if the podcast never worked out? I think I'd actually still be podcasting. Like, so what you say by never worked out, I don't know if that's like a monetary thing, like if I wasn't making enough like from ad revenue from it. But seriously, I think I'd still be doing it even if I made not a dime on it. I think low key I'd still be doing it because it's actually a passion of mine. Like I sit back sometimes and I see the catalog of people I've talked to, and it really like, I don't know, it's something that I'm very proud of. And I know like it's weird to just talk about the things you're proud of in a sense, but like I haven't really ever stuck to things that much over my life. There's been a lot of like times I've just quit doing something because I just burn out or realize, oh, maybe this isn't something I want to do. And there have been times where like I've thought about like maybe taking a large break from the podcast just because I'm feeling burnt in the moment or something like that. But I've continued to do it, and it's just paid dividends, and it's just been a really amazing experience in my life of knowing like I can do something long. Today actually marks the 3-year anniversary of me starting the SaveCast. I did the first episode December 7th of 2020, which is pretty nuts to think about. So yeah, like it's just a really cool thing that I'll continue to do as well. And it doesn't matter if it didn't work out or not. Luckily it really has. Like it has been an amazing blessing in my life, like blessing me financially to, continue to do it and to really feel like my efforts are being rewarded in a sense, even though really it's not much effort. It's just me talking about RuneScape to a lot of people. And, not every episode's the best. I'll be the first to admit that. Like there's some episodes where I'm like, ugh, like that wasn't my best, or that wasn't as interesting as I hoped it would be. Or I get in my head a lot about like, ugh, people are going to listen to this and never want to listen to another episode again because they just didn't enjoy it. But it's just one of those things where you have to push past that. Like you have to understand that not every episode's going to be a banger. And like, I don't know, just kind of, and as well as like letting go. Like sometimes, like I will seriously record a podcast for 3 hours, and then for the next 3 hours, I'll just think about how fucking stupid I sounded. Like how stupid I was to go on this stupid tangent, and like just I will hyper analyze. Like because now that like I do some of the timestamping on my videos, like I have to go back and listen, and I just am cringing over how fucking just obnoxious I am and how anybody would ever want to listen to this. But I just have to turn off my brain sometimes and just fucking publish it. And a lot of the support I've gotten over the years and a lot of like the positive comments have really like reinforced that people do enjoy listening to it, even if I think it's an abomination. But so thank you guys for the positive comments and everything like that. And thanks as well to those that like help financially support the podcast, like through Patreon and other things. Like any people that support me as a creator is just the most crazy thing. Like it makes no sense to me still of like people wanting to support me, but it's just it's a blessing for sure. Okay, Bend Over 2077, top 10 best and worst best in slot or borderline best in slot gear grinds as an iron, time invested to get as well as enjoyment of the encounter or usefulness of the item objectively and subjectively. Top 10. Oh my god. You know what? Let me just look at my like OSR or my RuneLite panel, pull out and just look at the bosses real quick, because I'm not going to do the top 10 best and worst, but I definitely will say like all the raids are obviously very, very useful. I would say Corp is the borderline like least useful because it's just you're getting these shields that really have not much use. Even the Arcane doesn't have much use because you have such thing as a shadow. I'm trying to think. Nightmare is also one of those like pretty useless grinds where like the time input to output of reward is not great. And I don't know. This is like too hard. This would have to have been something that I like spent a lot of time thinking about, which I just haven't right now. So I'm not gonna go into it. But I'd be curious what you guys have to say about this one down in the comments. We'd love to hear a flushed out idea of your idea of an overhaul to skilling. Every day we stray further from fun and desirable skilling. What could we truly do to fix these poor skills? No, it's really, I've been actually like thinking of this in my head. I'm like, well, what is like a very concise way of illustrating what I want in skilling? And a one-word answer is rhythm. It's just rhythm. Like we need rhythm. Every very fun, engaging PvM encounter that we have is rhythm based. And when we come out with skill or these mini games to skills and other skilling methods, it's just if there isn't that really addicting flow of rhythm and satisfactory, that like I've said this multiple times on videos and stuff, but It's satisfaction of predictable resource extraction. It's like that sense of clicking on something and knowing you're about to get an XP drop or knowing you're about to get the resource extracted from it. Like that anticipation and actually getting that reward. It'd be like the same satisfaction of like clicking your spec bar, about to shoot a ZCB Ruby bolt, and actually seeing that fucking 1000 XP drop. Like, boom. Like, oh, as soon as you hit that 0, you're like, fuck. Like, there's something deep inside of you that's like, that fucking sucked. Like, god damn it, just wasted all that, you know? And I also think another amazing thing, at least for gathering skills, would be actual gear upgrades to skills. Now, of course, this has to be very carefully managed. I'm not just saying like start coming out with a bunch of crazy fucking like crazy gear that's buffing everything that you feel like you're trolling if you don't have it. It's really about, for example, like the dragon pickaxe. Instead of it having the most boring special attack of all time, even this one has the most boring thing ever. Increase your woodcutting level by 3. It doesn't even fucking do anything at 99 anyway. It's like, imagine the dragon axe actually had a special where you click it and your next chop is going to have like a fucking 4x accuracy plus the potential to actually extract 4 logs in that same tick. So when you click it, when you click this fucking spec orb, you're anticipating this massive load of dopamine, just boom, you know. The same thing with the dragon pickaxe. Like, imagine you're mining a runite ore and you get this spec that finally has like loaded up. And again, I just need to state this right now. Well, here I'll finish on the runite, or the runite ore example. Is like you click it and now you have, you know, this 400% chance of mining it, or even larger than that. Something just crazy where it's like almost a guaranteed success or something, and the potential to extract actually 4 ores from this one rock. Like something so powerful. But there is a problem with how the special attack works, whereas like light bearer or pool regenning or Narda teleporting, these things that can make it so you can just continually spec over and over and over again. So my idea was similar to the Soul Reaper axe, where you do have a separate bar entirely. I think that would be the way to go about like new tools, special attacks, is make it like the Soul Reaper axe, where it has its own charge, where the more you chop, it slowly regens, but it's based on how much you chop, not special attack energy. So you couldn't just abuse a pool or a Narda altar just over and over and over. It'd have to be like organic. Like the more you build up, the more power you'd have to use. And so you could even have something where you could just spec earlier and just get a slight buff, or you could just keep waiting, loading it up, and then boom, you get this huge dopamine. Like simple things like that would literally make skilling feel so good. It would make it feel so much better. It would encourage you, like even something as simple as a special attack would actually encourage you to actually be at your computer instead of like star mining, where it was like fucking 20-minute AFK. Like you being there actually would, you know, slightly increase your XP rates. Anyway, just simple things like that. But the main thing is rhythm. And it doesn't have to be for every skill. Look at me right now. I'm chopping redwoods. This is totally fine. It's cool to have AFK methods. I love it. I love that RuneScape has that variety. But when you're talking about like making skilling fun, that's what's important, is the rhythm. So all right, let's see. Your days doing the religious Mormon stuff. So I will, again, I'd have to make a completely separate ramble on this, because I mean, I could talk for hours and hours on my religious Mormon stuff. But for those that don't know, I did grow up LDS, which is Latter-day Saint. And that has played a major role in my life growing up, and still, believe it or not, continues to play a role mentally in my life, just because I have left the church, and I left it about half a decade ago. It still continues to affect the way I think and the way I view the world. And I don't know, it's hard to really like say everything in like a ramble like this, but I have broken away from the faith. And I've had to like deconstruct everything about it, because it really was a powerful identifier of like who I was as a person. And so growing up with this, you know, identity that I had, and having to deconstruct that has like caused some mental health problems in my 20s, and also has led to like, I don't know, just other problems with trying to like, I don't know, like involve myself in modern day like society in a sense. This would have to be a separate ramble in and of itself, where I'd have to like actually write down some thoughts and notes so I don't just sound like a scattered brain like lunatic. But it really has in a lot of ways negatively impacted my quality of life, breaking away from it, and even being involved in it can have consequences. I view the Mormon faith as a cult, and yes, I'm not saying that every aspect of it is negative and it's a bad thing for the world or anything. I do see things a lot more open-minded now, where like faith in anything can have like benefits in people's lives, and I understand that. But at the same time, the way the church is structured, there's a lot of like abuse that can go like undetected, and there's a lot of like problems. There's a lot of fear-based tactics that go along with these kinds of religions, where breaking away from it can be like some of the most painful things you ever experience because of just how much you've been indoctrinated by it. So, don't get me wrong though. I mean, my date, when I think back to like me being a Mormon, like I have some really fond memories of it. And, I even have fond memories of who I thought I was, and who, the kind of like purpose that was given to me basically at birth. Like, this is your purpose in life, and this is what life all is, and don't ask questions, kind of like, this is what it is. There's a lot of comfort and security to that, but breaking away from it has definitely caused a lot of stress in my life. And I've been working through it slowly and surely. And, but yeah, if you guys are interested in more of me talking about that, there's obviously like, I could talk about this shit for hours and hours and hours, because there's so many stories. I served a 2-year mission as well, where my whole life for 2 years, from ages, literally the first month I turned 18 until the first month I turned 20, was out in Texas. I was a Spanish speaking missionary, teaching about Mormonism, trying to get people baptized, doing a lot of service, not being able to communicate with my family for, except for twice a year over like an hour or two, like Skype call, and just occasional weekly emails where you can respond for a couple hours. Other than that, there was no contact with like family or friends and other things. So it really was just an isolated experience, but still had a lot of great experiences, don't get me wrong. But it's something where like, yeah, just endless stories. I actually wrote in my journal every single day as well. So I have like 700 some entries on that. So there's definitely a bunch to talk about that I have not talked about at all on content creation. It's something I've kind of like been a little bit intimidated of talking about, simply because it does put me in a very vulnerable spot, which I don't actually mind doing. It's just one of those things that like I feel like could eventually bite me in the back, in a sense of like getting too vulnerable and having that, I don't know. And the other thing is like I have a RuneScape channel, so getting into IRL topics in general, just I get a lot of like kind of backlash of people like, come on, man, you're a RuneScaper. Like, shut the fuck up. We don't want to hear about this. Let's talk about RuneScape. So, I don't know. I've even considered like making an IRL channel where I kind of talk about more IRL things and my own thought process on stuff. But I don't know if I could like really go to. I don't know how much I could talk about if I made a separate channel entirely, or rather, I would just make something like, I don't know, a Patreon exclusive or some shit like that. Or I could just post it on this channel, and if you're interested, people would click it. If not, that's another thing. But let me know down in the comments if you guys are interested in a dedicated video on that. Maybe I could post it on this channel alone. Theory craft a Winter Todd for every skill in the game. No, thank you. Okay, Winter Todd is the exact example of a good, potentially good in theory, but the actual gameplay of it is so aggravating. And the other one of the things that always scares me of like calling a certain like mini game or calling an activity aggravating or just annoying or this sucks is that people don't know how much better it could be. It's the same thing I get from like talking shit about Giants Foundry. So I think Giants Foundry is shit because in my head, I know how much better it could be. And so when you don't have that vision, you just see it as it's either this or nothing. And so I'd rather have this. So then you try to, kind of see the positives, like, oh, I'm getting good XP, it's pretty chill, whatever. But Winter Todd could have been so much better. Still could be so much better. But I don't think anything will ever change with it. And it's that exact thing of like clicking a brazier with a log, getting frozen, nothing's fucking happening for 3 ticks. You're sitting there like a dumbass. Got frozen again, so you're just sitting there doing nothing. Just so many aspects of it are so pointlessly aggravating and annoying and lack of any sort of rhythmic flow to it at all. It just pisses me off. So I'm also not a huge fan of just making everything minigamescape. They've done some minigames right. Like I think what's it called? What's that fucking fishing one? Temperos. Temperos did a great job, and Guardians of the Rift, of course, did a pretty good job. And, they're fine, but I don't want, like, for example, I don't want, like, a mining minigame or something to just come out and dominate. Or, it's okay to have, like, I think Temperos did a great job because it's not something that you're going to sit there and do forever and ever and ever because it just busted everything. It's just like, it's just better than every single thing. It complements the skill very nicely, which I like. When will you make a fresh account? Would love to follow that series. I've actually considered making a fresh account, especially a lot more this year when I was a little bit more burnt. But I've since recovered from that burnout, and I've been very addicted to this game. I've been very addicted to my account as well, and I've actually been extremely motivated on continuing to progress this account. I think part of it is also seeing, I don't know, sort of taking a step back and realizing how much I've accomplished on this account is actually kind of fulfilling in a sense, and it kind of continues to keep me motivated to keep building it. A lot of the motivation stems from Third Age as well. Like one of my longtime goals is to complete a full Third Age set, which, there's no way I'd ever restart that goal because I'm already 4 pieces in. But it's like, that would be an absolutely amazing feat to accomplish on an Ironman, any account in particular, but in particular an Ironman would be insane. I am the only Ironman currently with a full gilded set, which is also an incredible flex, but that Third Age would be just the ultimate flex where I could just sit at the GE for the rest of my account's life and just have an auto typer on that just shows to everyone I'm an Iron Man, and that's all I would have to do. Now, but real talk, that does keep me pretty motivated on this account. But I actually watched the Swampletics Ramble today. I watched his Ramble on his main channel, and then I followed his new channel where he will just be making more unedited stuff. And his ramble talking about making these different series and different restrictions, it always gets me thinking of all these little series I could make. But for some reason there's a mental block in my head where it's the time I've spent doing that will be time I'm not spending on here. I could play 2 accounts at once for sure, but I've also never enjoyed multi-logging. I like dedicating myself to one account in particular. So it's not off the table, but it's definitely not going to be anytime soon where I make a series like that. I could, however, make a dedicated series on this account. It just always feels odd starting a series when you have an account that's, 19K plus hours in already. But, it's I just have to be a little bit more creative. It's really easy to just make a series and make it, not easy, but it's always possible to make a series that's really engaging and there's some unique goals on it and stuff like that, even with an endgame Ironman. I think it's just the fact that I have never made a series is the thing that people really want. They want me to make a series, and I agree. I think it would be fun. It would just be a different pursuit of mine that I've never really done. So I think part of it's intimidation, but I don't know. Let me know down in the comments if you guys are interested. Ramble about rambling. I love rambling. I really do. I've been talking for over an hour already, and I've actually just thoroughly enjoyed this. Rambling was really the reason why I started this YouTube channel in general. It's just like from the very beginning, all I wanted to do was just talk about my account. You know, streaming was my main pursuit, and YouTube was just like a side project where I just upload random shit like hour-long skilling videos and other things. And somehow it kind of grew from there. And I'm actually very happy with the growth that I've received on YouTube. It's definitely not like as much as, you know, the average YouTuber that really starts like pulling out some crazy series and stuff. But simply me talking and talking to others and having built a pretty, you know, healthy subscriber base is really heartwarming. It makes me feel good that I can actually do something I actually wanted to do, not just make some crazy hype videos with some clickbait thumbnails and everything and get a lot of hype for it and then realize I don't actually want to continue doing this. Rambling and Save Casts and all the other things I upload are things I actually want to do continually. And so having you guys there, you know, with the positive comments and the likes and all the subscriptions and the support I receive, it's pretty cool knowing like I can do exactly what I want and people will be there to support. So thank you. We'll kind of wrap things up here. I've really enjoyed this, actually. My mouth's getting a little bit dry, so I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for listening. Drop a like if you enjoyed it. If you guys want to support me as a creator, there is 2 ways down in the description. There's a Patreon link and a YouTube membership link. There is just a $2, $5, and $10 pledge, and the perks are all about the same. It's just, depending on how much you want to support. But let me think. Tomorrow, I'll be talking with Frey on the Sebe cast, and then early next week, I'll actually be getting UIM Loki on, who I got to meet and talk to for about an hour at the Crusader talent party in the Bellagio in Las Vegas in late October. So that was really awesome. I'm very, very excited to talk to him. He's a very interesting man, and he's really cool. So I'm excited to talk to both of them. And yeah, happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. Stay warm out there, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.